Pro sports mixed with crime has long been synonymous as far back as I can remember. And you don't have to really think too hard about it. Like, for instance, name 2 or 3 athletes in professional sporting leagues that have committed heinous crimes. I can name some of them right off the bat. You have Oscar Pistorius. Know him, Blade Runner? He's a double amputee and to this day the only paraplegic to participate in the Olympic Games and not the Special Olympics. He allegedly shot his girlfriend to death through his bathroom door, thinking her to be intruders burglarizing his home. Crazy as that sounds. How about Aaron Hernandez? He was well on his way to becoming the next big thing in the NFL, maybe even upstaging his old teammate Rob Gronkowski as a force to be reckoned with on that offensive line. He couldn't seem to leave the gang life behind though and ended up catching a murder charge when he allegedly gunned down a friend. And we all know about Chris Benoit, the crippler. He massacred his family. But what about a lesser-known athlete, a WWE hopeful who went on to sign a developmental deal to appear in FCW? Brian McGhee was branded as the future. His future, however, would turn out to be futile and eventually came to a screeching halt.
You may not know me, but I'm the future. Donovan Ruddick, 6'9", 275 pounds. And I'm here in Pro Wrestling Next to make an impact in the Quad Cities. I've done it in Missouri, I've done it in Florida, I've done it in Texas, I've done it all over, and now I'm here. And when the smoke clears, you're damn sure gonna remember the name, Donovan Ruddick.
Greetings and salutations, JTR Raps back at it again with another true pro wrestling story. Brian the Future McGhee. How many of you have heard about this former wrestler and what he did? If you haven't, then the story I'm about to tell you might catch you off your bases a little bit. So let's wrap on Brian McGhee, shall we? Brian Michael McGhee was born on February 3rd, 1984, and is a native of St. Louis, Missouri, born and raised. His childhood wasn't an easy one. He considered himself an outcast in the neighborhood he grew up in, and he and his siblings were less fortunate than other children. They had to make do with what little they had in order to survive. From a young age through adolescence, he was picked on and teased simply for coming from a low-income household and his social status, but the one constant that helped him make it through was professional wrestling. It was admittedly his dream to one day become a professional wrestler, and it's all he ever wanted to do growing up. He was finally able to break out of his shell during his high school days. He was reportedly an all-star athlete and played varsity in a variety of sports. After graduation from high school, he enlisted in the United States Navy, in which he served honorably from 2002 to 2004. As a sailor, he learned honor, courage, and discipline and adopted those same values upon discharge and transitioning back into a civilian. Spent some time as an assistant manager in a St. Louis pawn shop before making that leap of faith. 2006 was the year that McGhee decided he would pursue his lifelong dream of becoming a professional wrestler and sports entertainer. McGhee is described as big, powerful, and dominating. Here's what his biography says on Pro Wrestling Fandom. After serving his country, DT took to the ring with an attitude of never say die. Once the oppressed, DT is the one now doing the enforcing. Determined to take all his childhood pain and torment out on the bodies of his opposition, DT lacks mercy and will deliver great anger and furious vengeance on any who stand in his way. It wasn't hard to see why, as he towered over his adversaries in the ring. He is a legit 6 feet 7 inches and weighs between 270 to 280 pounds, though billed as a 6'9" monster in the square circle. He cut his teeth on the national wrestling scene in the Midwest region of the United States. He wrestled a strong style and favored the crucifix bomb as his signature move. He wrestled in promotions such as Lethal Wrestling Alliance, in which he won the LWA Heavyweight Championship, High Voltage Wrestling, in which he won their HVW Heavyweight Championship, and the Mid-Missouri Wrestling Alliance, in which he won the South Illinois Heavyweight Championship. In 2008, he was a runner-up for Wrestler of the Year for Midwest Wrestling Revival, pro wrestling website that covers promotions throughout Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, and Kansas. McGhee was subsequently acknowledged by Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine, placing 476 out of 500 wrestlers in 2009. The sacrifice and hard work paid off. In 2010, McGhee penned a developmental deal with World Wrestling Entertainment to compete in WWE's developmental territory, Florida Championship Wrestling, under the name DT Porter. This before FCW was deactivated and rebranded under the NXT Wrestling banner. He wrestled in developmental until 2012 and made it onto a few FCW cards in Tampa, mixing it up with the likes of Eric Rowan, Biggie Langston, and Tom Latimer, who may be best known by the name Bram during his time with Total Nonstop Action. Unfortunately for McGhee, his tenure was short-lived in WWE. His time was played by an undisclosed injury he sustained, which put the big man on the shelf for nearly a year and may have contributed to his release from the company in 2012. According to a post he made on his Facebook page, as well as a friend of McGhee's who wished to remain anonymous, McGhee did not enjoy his time in Tampa at all due to the ridicule and treatment he received from his trainers. This may very well be in line with Bill DeMott's tenure in WWE. He returned to the company as a trainer in 2011 and replaced Tom Pritchard as the head trainer for FCW in June the following year. He resigned in the wake of multiple public allegations of misconduct from a number of former FCW and NXT trainees. Now, in retrospect, McGhee's Facebook post was essentially a cry for help. His post reads, quote, "Guys, I don't know how much longer I can handle this. Every day is a constant struggle to keep my sanity. I love wrestling and it's all I ever wanted to do. Already going crazy since I've been for like 10 months now, but it gets worse. Every day a trainer goes out of his way to rib or disrespect me in front of the boys because I've been out so long. I can't clear myself. I want to wrestle more than anything, but I don't even know who I am anymore. It's so fucking hard. I just feel it just building inside of me and I don't know how much longer I can contain it. I have daydreams of just fucking everyone up on some real shit. I'm not a kid, I'm a fucking man. But what do you do when the people in charge of helping you get to the main roster are the ones making your life the hardest? I've been drinking almost every day. It's to the point where I keep vodka and gin in my trunk. Help me," end quote. He deleted the post shortly thereafter, claiming his page had been hacked. An unnamed friend of McGhee's who wrestled with him in St. Louis said McGhee's time in WWE Developmental changed him. An interview with Raj Giri of WrestlingInc.com reads as follows. "I know the past few months he's been a mess since his release. He's always talking about how fucked up developmental system is. His release also really hit him hard. I'm not saying that it's WWE's fault he went crazy, but he was a different person after he got released than before he was signed. He was the nicest guy who loved wrestling and was cordial to everyone's family. He felt obligated to return, but he knew the writing was on the wall with the treatment he was getting while injured. A couple of us in St. Louis kept trying to get him to move back. He didn't have any real friends in Florida, just a couple of cousins." At this stage, Brian McGhee was nothing short of a ticking time bomb. Constant shaming he allegedly received from his trainers, with whom you're supposed to turn to for advice, build trust, and build that trainee-coach relationship. Drinking hard liquor, which only intensified after his estranged wife had reportedly left him, not to mention losing his nephew, with whom he was very close, in 2013. Things seemingly started to look up for McGhee, at least on the surface of it all. He dated a 25-year-old young lady named Bianca V. McGoy, also known by family and friends as Bianca Miss Binky McGoy, whom he met in Tampa and whom was also a native of St. Louis, Missouri. Here they are pictured together from her Facebook page. Close friends and family members describe Bianca as a very outgoing, kind, and sweet young woman who enjoyed working with children and loved playing with her cats Patches, Leo, Speedy, and Boots. She enjoyed life to the fullest. They would eventually stop dating and seemingly ended their relationship on good terms as they continued maintaining contact with each other. He even moved on to another relationship with a lady named Dee Diara, who goes by just Dee. Here they are pictured together on McGhee's Facebook profile. In another social media post he made on February 12, 2013, he advertised his return to a wrestling promotion by the name of 01 USA to take place in April the same year. He promoted himself as former WWE developmental talent, 6'9" monster Donovan Terrell. Unfortunately, appearances can be deceiving. On the fateful night of July 24, 2013, on or about 8:25 p.m., McGhee was laying in wait in the close vicinity of Bianca McGoy's apartment complex at Del Lago Circle in Tampa. McGhee exited a Pontiac Grand Prix as McGoy approached, followed by a short exchange indiscernible to those who witnessed the incident. One such witness says McGhee appeared to have punched McGoy in the stomach before she doubled over and fell to the ground screaming in pain. The witness ran to call for help, and once he or she returned to the scene, witnessed as McGhee lay motionless as she bled out on the sidewalk with a knife protruding from her stomach. When deputies arrived, they discovered that she'd been stabbed several times in her torso and neck areas. Bianca McGhee died at the scene. McGhee fled expeditiously. Now, I don't know when he had the time or the audacity to do what he did next between fleeing the crime scene and making a getaway in his car, but allegedly, he changed his profile pic on Facebook to a photo of a bloody body part, which may have been his or her arm or leg. It's unclear, further adding insult nonetheless. I couldn't post it for obvious reasons, but there's a link in the description if you want to look out for it. Anxiety through the roof and in a state of panic, McGhee reportedly phoned both his sister and his mother and openly admitted to killing McGhee in cold blood. His behavior, erratic, McGhee's sister had a hard time keeping him on the line. However, an officer took the phone and according to court documents, he confessed to the officer for yet a third time. Meanwhile, police put out an APB on McGhee's vehicle. Once McGhee's vehicle was found speeding down the interstate by law enforcement officials, a high-speed chase ensued as deputies aggressively pursued. McGhee led police from Hillsborough County down Interstate 75 toward Pasco until he lost control of the vehicle and crashed head-on into a guardrail near County Line Road and I-75. Events following the crash are unclear, but McGhee either escaped on foot or failed to comply with the demands given by deputies. Either way, a canine handler deployed Chico, the police dog, a German Shepherd mix who helped take down McGhee, and McGhee was apprehended immediately thereafter. As a result of his injuries sustained after he collided his vehicle into the guardrail, McGhee was transported to St. Joseph's Hospital for treatment. The nature of his injuries, however, weren't revealed. He was admitted Wednesday night, discharged from the hospital the following evening, and promptly booked into the Pasco County Jail on Friday morning, hospital gown and all.
Former pro wrestler Brian McGhee could have gotten the death penalty for murdering his ex-girlfriend and then posting pictures of her body on Facebook. But prosecutors agreed to spare his life. And Fox 13's Gloria Gomez is here to tell us why the change of heart.
Well, the state actually said that the defendant will not face the death penalty, but he will face life in prison without parole. Former pro wrestler Brian McGhee did what many inmates have tried to do.
Mr. McGhee would be sentenced to life in the Florida State Prison without possibility of parole.
He dodged the death penalty while it remains in limbo.
The state would withdraw their intention to seek the death penalty.
And got life in prison instead.
How do you plead today?
Guilty.
Are you pleading guilty because you believe it's in your best interest to do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Prosecutors say 3 years ago, Brian McGhee stabbed his ex-girlfriend Bianca McGhee to death while she was on the phone with his wife.
There was upwards of 15 stab wounds.
The state had every intention to show this was a heinous, malicious act.
He walked up to Ms. McGhee and attacked her with a knife.
Describing how she was caught off guard while walking her dog.
Ms. McGhee, in fact, held the phone out to Mr. McGhee and said something to the effect of, "Here, there's somebody who wants to talk to you." She was in fact talking on the phone with Mr. McGee's wife, who was concerned for his safety. And Mr. McGhee immediately just began attacking Ms. McGhee without speaking any words.
Then when the knife broke, they say he went back to the car to grab another one and continued the attack. Prosecutors say he then bragged about it.
There were also admissions made on social media by Mr. McGhee, specifically Facebook,
posting bloody pictures of McGhee after the attack. While McGhee avoids the possibility of death row, he will never leave prison alive.
Do you understand that in the state of Florida, life means life?
Yes, ma'am.
Now McGhee will be formally sentenced soon. That will give the victim's family a chance to speak out during that sentence. Yolanda McGuire logged on to Skype, and suddenly she was front and center at the sentencing for her daughter's killer. After taking a deep breath, she talked about the bond she once shared with her daughter, Bianca.
We were like two peas in a pod. You see one, you see the other.
And the heartbreak of having that bond ripped away.
A week and a half after her 25th birthday, our worst fears came true. The person who was supposed to love and protect our daughter was the very one who ended her short life.
Former pro wrestler Brian McGhee sat slumped in his chair during McGuire's testimony.
For the senselessness of this murder and his disregard for human life, including his own, Brian the Future McGhee, who can now be referred to as inmate 711-002, is currently in close custody and serving out his life sentence in the Appalachia Correctional Institution East Unit, a level 5 facility in Sneed, Florida that houses all security levels from tax evaders to child predators to murderers. Brian McGhee once had a promising future. Sadly, his self-sabotaging behavior resulted in lives lost, his own and the life of Bianca, his victim. She was only 25 years old. Condolences to the family, RIP Bianca V. McGoy. Y'all be careful out there. Pay attention to the signs. Someone may be crying out for help and use his or her social media as a way of reaching out without reaching out, if you get what I'm trying to say. Check on your loved ones now and again. Make sure they're good. It's a mad world and you just never know. That's going to do it for this week's True Pro Wrestling Story. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Hit that subscribe button and that notification bell if you're digging the content. Leave a like. Hit me in the comments. This is JTR Raps signing off.